Okay. All right. Cool. So you have your thing. Talk to me about your name.
Okay. My legal name, Naomi Wilder, and my music name, EEMA Naomi, EEMA. And the reason I chose that is because of my Jewish ancestry. The word EEMA means mother or mama.
Oh.
And so it's interesting because some people, automatically call me EEMA as my first name, which is a little confusing. But really what they're just calling me is mama. And that's okay too.
You don't answer to EEMA.
Not necessarily, unless somebody doesn't realize it. And then I say, yeah.
So it's like Mama Naomi.
It's like Mama Naomi. It's like if I were to put my music name out there in English as Mama Naomi.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah.
I didn't put that together, but I think I heard that on this show on Netflix that was called My Unorthodox Life. Have you seen that?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. They called her EEMA all the time. And really they spell it IMA, which is how you spell it traditionally, but I just knew in North America, at least, people would say IMA. So yeah. I thought ahead.
I'm really into spelling things out phonetically for the location that you're in.
Yeah, totally.
Smart move. Cool. Well, I love the music you've been putting out lately. And
thank you.
Forever, but lately I've been listening to your non-mantra stuff or your singer-songwriter stuff, and it's been exciting to kind of discover you as a singer-songwriter. Were you doing that prior to the mantra stuff, and then you kind of came back to it, or was this kind of a new exploration?
Yeah, totally like you. I read your bio. I'm like, oh, similar, same. We both were writing creatively, expressing, and then mantra came into our lives, and yeah, that's what happened. So it was predating Kundalini yoga years for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Was that sort of a weird transition for you, or did that feel just totally natural? Like, what was your experience of that?
Yeah, I feel like it was weirder in the sense that I projected how weird it must have been for people that had only known me through Kundalini yoga. That's where I still feel a little awkwardness. Like, yeah, but the people that knew me before seen this whole like loop-de-loop, like, oh, there she was, then she went into this other thing, and now she's back. Okay, I remember this person, she's who I remember now. And whereas the people that I met, in the Kundalini yoga world, there's a whole another world and people to connect with from all over the world. And so that's where it's felt awkward. It's just like these people that solely know me from that world to then see me in this place where it feels very natural to return to. Yeah.
Have you been doing, do you think that the mantra affected the way that you are now writing songs? Like, has your process changed as a result of doing that?
I definitely feel that's the case. It's hard to put in words because it's such an energetic thing, but obviously the nod that I learned through mantra really has helped my songwriting and having things flow sonically. So there I can just contribute so much to learning about nod. And then like frequency levels and vibration and even what I'm writing about, it's like in English, but it's spiritual. It's about love. It's about connection. It's about the human experience. And it does, it has that sort of elevation, even though, it's not from scripture.
Yeah. Yeah. If you feel at any point that you want to just go off and talk about something, please feel free. I feel like this is more of a conversation than like an interview, so I didn't prepare any questions. And if you have like awesome stories to tell, I invite you to just spontaneously do that, because I love finding out about people behind their music and I find it's actually it's kind of a special thing for artists to share themselves personally, because I think a lot of artists are like, well, I already did it with my music. I don't have any more to give to the conversation. Like I've already given so much, which is totally, appropriate for them. But I don't know, for me, I just love finding out like the stories behind songs. Speaking of which, I was just listening to your song Sentient. Do you feel like talking about what that's about?
Yeah. So that was the second single that I put out. And I wrote it actually a while back in the Kundalini Yoga years. And I was just feeling so much. It was probably like, who knows what was happening in the stars, but I was really feeling on a visceral level so much complexity and, grief and confusion. And I just had to explore a song about it. And so that song to me was about, well, the first verse at least was about, connecting and meeting people and how they kind of rub you a certain way, or rub you the wrong way, and rub you the right way. And it was just one of those times in my life where there was a lot of spontaneous combusting happening. And so I wrote about how sentient we are, and if we're really tapped into the feeling of being a human, it can almost be overwhelming. And I just had some fun with it, because it's tingling and it's also tangling, and then the second verse, that was around the time actually where I started to kind of want to go back into writing songs in English and exploring that part of myself again. And so the second verse was about the muse arriving and how she was coming. I felt like she was back in and awakening. It's interesting, because knowing yoga and the terms and all the stuff, I'm like, wow, the muse is here, and I feel all my chakras lit up right now, and I want to write music and see the colors are all saturated. And yeah, so that song is kind of about life being very saturated.
I hear that. Wow. I'm taking notes.
Mhm.
Did you feel any sort of resistance to writing in English? Was that weird at first again? Did it seem like a non-spiritual language or anything silly like that? Or
It's certainly not the most romantic language, but I wouldn't say resistance, only because it's just my native tongue. I would say that there's a difference in the sense that when you and I both have chanted Japji over and over and over, and there's something that doesn't quite happen in English compared to chanting Gurmukhi, the tongue flapping and the rhythm, I mean, it can happen, but it doesn't happen as ornately, I would say.
Mhm.
How about
Yeah.
you? I'm interested in hearing how you.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever felt that. Well, no, I guess I did. I must have at one point felt that English was not as spiritual, or else I wouldn't have been doing mantras. But towards when I started writing music again, no, I sort of felt like you were saying, the energy of those mantras and how they had affected me allowed me to use the English language maybe in a way that I hadn't before, or I had access to different ideas and things. I actually really love English. I think English, there's a lot of words in the English language. I speak French, and there's so much fewer words in French to describe things, even though it's really pretty, or
Mhm.
can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I feel that way too. Yeah.
Are you doing a lot live?
I'm starting to. Obviously with the pandemic, I wasn't for a while, and then things have definitely lifted up, and just small group things right now. My album is finally wrapped, and we're just getting all the promotional stuff and gear to release it. So, and then of course we're heading into the holiday season where it's not as great timing to tour. So I'm going to start touring.
Unless you have a
and
Christmas album.
exactly, which I was in the studio yesterday and we were like, what should we do? Should we do a Hanukkah song or a Christmas song? And nothing really strongly came through except for the little drummer boy I really wanted to do. But we were like, we need a drummer. We didn't have a drummer in the studio yesterday. So we're like, okay, we'll put that on hold. Maybe next year. Pum, 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 pum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
I think like, I can't remember. Somebody told me like, you have to get your Christmas single out by like summer or something, you know, like you have to get it ready to just,
That's what I heard.
because
Yeah.
they've already done like all the playlists and, you know, everything by the time. Yeah. It's not it's so weird. It must be so weird to record a Christmas album in the middle of summer.
Right. I've heard that too. And that makes some sense. It really does. Yeah.
you-
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to tour in the spring, like to tour for the album in the springtime.
Because are you in California?
I am, and I'll probably play a bunch of little shows, but like to go out with a band somewhere, it'll probably be late spring.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've done, so you have had 3 names to my knowledge, right? You've done music as Chud and Paul,
Mhm.
All Stars,
Mhm.
and EEMA,
Yeah,
NAOMI.
yeah.
Am I missing anything?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
So yeah,
ahead.
a Call Stars is the duo with my husband, who I believe I know you through. I mean, I knew you as the singer, you know,
Yeah,
and but he had played with you, and so he would always talk about you, like, oh, singing.
Does he play percussion with you, or do you guys have a
Not so much anymore. We're actually talking about getting a home studio set up, and we're buying gear and getting all that set up because we had a little makeshift one, but we want to get a little better upgrading. And once we do that, we'll probably end up playing more together. But we're also at a point where like, well, what would we play? What would we play? We're not really called to the meditation tracks anymore, but you know, he's a great drummer. He loves playing the djembe, and so we'll see what happens. Hopefully, eventually, we start collaborating again. Although he will be the first to admit this, we have a really hard time collaborating. We get into it. It's so funny when people come up to us like, "Oh, I love your this, I love your that track." You know, like your which one? People come the Sobag Kriya.
uh-huh.
And I remember we got into a raging fight during the recording of that song. I'm like, at first I was like, oh no, is this frequency going to be infused? And it's like, HUD, you know? And like people come up like they
Probably why
love
they love
it.
it so much.
Some realness in there.
That's a very aggressive Kriya. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the fire energy is there.
That's funny. That reminds me, I have this song called Love Is, and I had more arguments with people over that song. So ironic. I'm like, love is, you know, it's like,
Well, we get provided the contrast, right? And
yeah,
show us what something actually is.
totally. I was talking to Sean Johnson. I think that'll be the last podcast. Yours will be after his. And he was saying his band has been together for like, I'm gonna get this wrong, but I think I remember him saying like 16 years, and they don't get along very well, like personally, but they get along really well collaboratively. So maybe you just can't have both. I don't know.
It's rare to have both. I'll say, like, to find that magic. Like this person that I've been recording with, his name is Graham Patzner, and we can accomplish in the studio in one day what I've tried to do with other producers in months, and still don't create. It's like a chemistry. It's a magic that happens, and we just are on the same page. And so when you find that, it's just like, oh, please, let's preserve this because it's so hard to come by.
Totally. Yeah, keeping your people, you know, the ones that like so important. I actually That's one of the things I got from the Pink documentary. Did you see that?
No, not yet.
She's really cool. I had never really
Yes.
listened to her music before, but she's like a gymnast acrobat. She does all these like crazy stunts during her performances.
Right.
But one of the really cool things about her is that she has had the same crew for like her whole career, or
Wow.
most of it. Yeah, because she really, like, when she finds someone that she likes, she values them. But I feel like most people are kind of like, well, I was thinking about this too, like in other aspects of my life, like, well, this is a little too easy. Maybe I could get something better, you know? So we try to upgrade, but
Right. And sometimes that's important. Like, I've worked with countless people in different realms, like from web designers to engineers, and it's, you make the best working with the dynamics you have at hand, but it is, I wouldn't say it's like people are disposable at all. It's more just like what could be a better match,
mhm.
and what will serve the art the best, that's ultimately the ideal.
Right. Yeah, and somebody can be really amazing, and
Right.
just, I always feel like just because you did something with someone doesn't mean you have to do it again too. But maybe you do. Maybe you keep doing it. Maybe.
Right. Right. If that desire is there. Yeah, we've worked with some amazing, people with lots of accolades, and it was pleasant and amazing, but it was like, were we on the same page creatively? No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's hard too, because when somebody is so accomplished too, I feel like there's also that rub of like, well, sometimes that they feel like they know best, or
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, the dynamics of collaboration are I don't know how to say, they're like definitely like a recipe that needs to be tinkered with very delicately.
Lots of dynamics at play. And if you're not careful, a lot of ego, clashing, or just clash of the wills. And yeah, just like life and in any endeavor, it's just, with artistry, it's like, I just feel like that much more attached to it, than other things in
Yeah.
life.
Are you someone that do you generally find that like the producer has a concept, like especially the one you're working with, I guess, and you love it off the bat, or is it sort of like, okay, well, I like this part of it, but let's tweak this? Like, are you a tweaker, or are you a sort of like, oh, I never would have thought about that. Sure, let's go in that weird direction,
Both. But
Okay.
I would say how I work is, I'll write the song. It'll be the acoustic version of it that I can hear in a much bigger, larger context with layers and textures. And so when I bring it to the producer, we start there. We start. I'll lay down. He'll actually put a click track on, and I'll play the guitar to it first, and then I'll sing, and then everything else and his musicians that he works with will come and bring whatever flavors what they experience. And so then he'll send me a little draft of it. Hey, what are you thinking? I was thinking along these lines. And that's why I like working with him, because 9.99 times out of 10, I'm like, yeah, that was it. Thank you. You nailed it. And I didn't have to say it.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
cool. That's a good relationship.
it is cool. And I have worked in the other sense where, I've been sent something back, and it becomes a whole other like awkward mess of, how do I put it to this person that I don't like this at all? And I know they spent hours on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard too, because if it's just like not, it's hard. You can't even explain that one. It's like, no, I don't think you got it. Like, you can't
Yeah.
really go like, I think the drums should be different. It's like,
No,
oh,
it's just like the whole essence of what this sounds like was just not the direction. And it's not that the playing was off or wrong or bad. It's just, yeah,
yeah.
it's just a vibe.
Yeah. It's just not you.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I like to be as involved as possible. I mean, nowadays with the recording process, it's so easy to be like, hey, here's these tracks, put yours on, be in your home studio all the way over there in like Timbuktu, and then send them back to me. And that's the beauty of it. And at the same time, if you're, it lends to a lot more magic when you're in the room together and you're, stirring the pot together, you know, bouncing ideas. And I don't know, it's more fun that way. And what I prefer when possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I hear like, I don't know if you're this way, but I tend to hear like on the micro level, like my producer kind of takes care of the envelope, but and she hears things that I don't. But I hear like tiny noises and I'm like, no, we have to get rid of that.
I am the same way.
Really?
Yeah. I always go, this is my Virgo rising, totally neurotic, but yeah, I think you moved during the, and the mic picked up on it. Like I hear that. That's what I'm looking for. And there is, I don't know if you feel this way, but like listening to your own tracks as you're making them, when you're on that micro level, it's like I need to be able to enjoy this at a certain point, and I won't be able to enjoy it until all these things are smoothed out,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It makes me a little, because sometimes I've actually let it go and I listen back and I'm like, I can't listen to this track. Other people might like it, but I can't even.
Oh my God, Porter, same. I'm just like, well, I've learned actually to speak up, if it's fixable, because I'm like, I want to be able to listen to this song again. I want to be able to be a great grandma and listen to the song again and be so proud,
Aw, nice.
Yeah. So there's it can be painstaking in a dramatic sense about it. It's all good, but there's a lot of fine tooth combing that people may not realize. I mean, what goes into it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and your music lately has had a lot of room in it. So that is like a breeding ground for tiny noises,
Yep.
When it's harder, I think, to make something like that sound good because there's not a lot to cover it up.
That's true. In the tracks that I did in the mantra music, I had the drone going the whole time, the harmonium droning the whole time. So yeah, in a sense, that kind of had such a solid bedrock for other things to kind of just go in and out. And with the spaciousness that we have in this new music, it's true. There's a lot. And we did it in this last recording we did in a home studio. So we did have oh, wait, there's a siren going by, if you listen closely, there's some background noises. Nobody would be able to detect it, but I actually just was asking because there's a track that has bird noises at the end that I didn't personally put in or hear or request to have, but they were there. I'm like, there's bird chirping right when we're finished playing. Did you add that in there? Did you get a sample of that? He's like, no, that was the birds. I'm like, awesome that it happened organically. Yeah.
That's so sweet. That reminds me of when I was recording my second album, I had just given birth to my first child.
Wow.
Never would have done that if I had known what having a child was like, but that's what I paid for. So at one point I actually had to hold him to sing one of the songs, and we got a little bit of his like sucking noises or something on the track. And I remember telling people about it, like this is funny. Obviously we're not going to keep it, but this is funny. And people are like, oh, you should totally keep it in the track. I kind of wish I had, but at the time I was like, no, that is not going on the track.
Oh, that's precious. Well, the essence of it was there. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I just realized that the reason I thought you had the microphone sticking out of your headphone was because of the gong thing in the back. No, if you just move to, there's that thing. No, you don't have to move, but on one side.
Oh,
there
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
See? I thought you had one of those gamer headsets on.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Because I was like, you probably had no idea what I was talking about.
No, I mean, I thought you were just referring to headphones in general. I didn't. Now that's so funny. Now that I see it, I cannot not see it.
And you who are listening to the audio of this, you'll just have to check out the YouTube video, I guess, to see what we're talking about. Yeah. Did
Oh,
you grow up playing music and guitar and all that?
I grew up singing. I remember this one moment where I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I can honestly say I didn't know what I was doing, but I went into my closet and turned on the lights and started singing songs that, like, I mean, who knows what I was singing about, but I remember like my heart chakra being like boom, 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 boom. And like just like being emotional and just making up a song, like hiding away from my family and making up a song. And like I didn't do it again after for a long time, but like looking back, I'm like, wow, that was like a soul transmission right there before I ever knew what was in store. And then when I was in, grade school and junior high, high school, I was very much involved in like choir and theater and dance. And so that really helped. Um, when I was just at a show the other night where I just stepped up to play one song. It was a whole night of Leonard Cohen songs on his Remembrance Day on Sunday night. And so I went up to just contribute one song, and the lyrics to the song that I sang, it's "One of Us Cannot Be Wrong," and it's just a very picturesque. He paints the lyrics, just paints so many pictures, and there's a certain quality and character to it. So I got into character a little bit, and I had a top hat on, and I was like, performance is a ritual for me, So I was like, I want to just like, why not get into it and like wear this fun hat and like make something of it. And the feedback that I kept getting after doing so was like, wow, you were like in this like other realm as a character almost. And I'm like, that is probably because my comfort zone on stage is to embody something of it. Like, even if it's myself, it's like, it's going to be a little heightened, a little bit on the next level. And so it wasn't until I was 18 years old that I picked up an instrument. My mother bought me an acoustic guitar. I still have it, actually, the Alvarez guitar. And I learned songs through Grateful Dead songbooks that had the pictures of how you shape the bar chords and whatnot. And so I learned chords from just wanting to play songs that I liked as a Deadhead teenager. But I never had any formal training. I would say my dance background taught me rhythm, taught me how to stay on rhythm. And even though we count in 8 as opposed to 4 in music, it just really helped me understand the grid, the framework of the BPM. And then obviously the theater helped me be on stage in front of people. I would say that helped with yoga too. I don't know if you have any background in theater or just, being in front of people. But when it came time to be in front of people to teach a yoga class, I'm like, oh, this is very similar to learning lines.
That's true. That's true. That's a really good point. I've never really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being a little kind of quizzical at people that like felt really uncomfortable about. I'm like, oh, I wonder why that is. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah.
I still get really nervous though.
Teaching or singing?
Oh, not teaching, but getting up before a show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be crippling, like to the point where I was like, you need your hands to be able to play, and your hands are shaking miserably. So I had to get over so much of that. I think it was just because there is a big leap from going from being in acting in a musical or dancing in a musical to actually like bearing your soul as a musician and playing an instrument, and all ears are on you.
Yeah, that is really true. that is something that, how do you feel about this? I feel like that was something that I like kind of graciously avoided being a mantra singer. Like, don't really need to bear myself in this. I mean, not that I wasn't present or like giving anything to it, but I wasn't being like divulgent about my emotions or anything, you know. It was like, you know.
Yeah, in a sense, well, in a big sense, it was in regards to that aspect, it was easier to be in front of people because then we were just like channeling the nod. It's not me. I'm just a channel. Whereas this creativity as an artist and as these are your original birthings. This is me here. So there is definitely a change in the projection, I would say.
Yeah. It could be, you could sort of consider your songs, no matter what they are, to be not you, but I think we kind of naturally feel like more, I don't know, tied to them as part of our identity or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I had such paralyzing, not singer's block, like stage fright when I was in college. It was weird. Like I could sing with my a cappella group, but I couldn't sing for my music class. I get so nervous singing for my music class. And I realized it was because it was like, I realized people had shown up to judge me in my music class, right?
Big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Whereas people with the a cappella, they like showed up to be entertained, you know. They weren't there to like nitpick at every part of what I was doing. And ironically, that created such like a nicer environment. And with the mantra stuff, it was like people just showed up to like bliss out, you know. They could really care less what happened.
Eyes closed, just take me there.
Right. You had me at good evening.
I was already in it. Yeah, exactly. No, that's a really good point, because what helped me calm my nerves on Sunday before getting up on stage for the Leonard Cohen Fest was, these people are here to enjoy themselves, to have a good time. They are not here to pick apart everything you do and scrutinize, and they're not wishing you screw up, like, like that. And it really helped. I'm like, oh, well, then I can get into this and have fun with them. Like, I want it. Now I really want to entertain them, Now I'm going to turn it on for these people that want to be turned on, like that's inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember feeling that way because I went to my college years, I went to school for dance and theater. And there's something that in the field of creativity that has that competitive nature when you're in class.
Yeah.
And I
or like
didn't
needing to prove yourself.
Right. Well, and then the teacher there literally judging what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't do quite as well in that some people do thrive in that pressure, but not me.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. I got a little scared, actually. I got a little scared that I would start like not liking music, because I majored in music, but I wasn't good at the theory stuff anyway, and I didn't have a great background in it. So I chose the only, like the least, I don't know, least conventional part of the major to focus on, which was electronic music and multimedia.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm like, no, I noticed like I could make, a track full of fart sounds and people be like, interesting, like where that third one is placed, and so it felt a lot like, I don't know, there was a lot more room for not being judged, which is funny. Yeah.
Was that the type of music you were making before mantra music?
Yeah, well, no, I was still songwriting, but I figured with that I would at least learn how to use a recording studio. It wasn't in a conventional way, because it was like we did some really cool stuff with like 5.1, you know, like
Mm,
surround sound
yeah.
audio. And so I did some cool stuff, but I didn't learn how to like properly mic a guitar, or like, you know, how to like record a piano to sound really good or anything like that. Or at least not, I guess I read about it, but I didn't like experientially, because what we were going for was different, you know, it's like,
Right. But that was smart to learn how
yeah,
to produce and record and work with the
yeah,
interface.
it gave me a good background. I'm still not, are, I wonder if you are like, I still don't hear, like when I talk to Ram Dass about music and he's like, oh, I can hear like the frequency and like the 10,000, you know, like whatever is, you know, needs to be pulled back. And I'm like, I don't hear like that.
I don't hear like that. I hear through feeling, like if it's got the right vibe, but that's like a whole other nuance. That's like, I mean, deep bows. No, I was never taught anything like that. And even now, I still find personally, I'd rather somebody record for me than me try to jump over all the hurdles and like pull my hair out trying to grapple with the technology of it all. Because even though I've learned, you know, how to work in Logic and whatnot, there's a lot that like can come up. It's just like computer issues, or
Yeah.
you know, there's issues, and you know, there's nothing you can do. Like what this everything I'm trying, and even when we're in the studio, sometimes that happens with like very skilled engineers. They're like, I don't know what's going on right now, you know.
Yeah.
And I just know myself better, and I've learned over the years to like, okay, what am I good at that I can always improve at, but what can I bring to the table and really serve with? And it's not that. And in a sense, I've become, it's like I'm dependent on somebody. In that sense, I'd like to get, you know, get more savvy. But in the other sense, it's like, wow, I just really want to, with the limited amount of time and space that I have, what can I really hone in on?
Yeah.
And for me, that's just songwriting, singing, playing the guitar, and arranging.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
I
I don't mind being dependent on, I mean, because
know.
it's a healthy dependency, right? It's like
Right.
it's a dependence that's kind of we kind of feed each other, because like they need you because that's their
Right.
livelihood. And you need them because that's your livelihood, you know.
A good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so you started guitar a little bit later on in life. I have to commend your mom for handing you a guitar. My dad was like, you should really learn how to play piano so you can, there's a long road to piano before you can sing along with it, Dad. But it was I sort of, I was bringing my keyboard to Mexico, and someone was asking me like, what is this? Because it's like this coffin, you know, that I'm taking through customs.
Customs.
And I was like, this is why you tell your friends with kids to buy them guitar.
Oh, funny.
Because
Yeah.
it's a huge, I mean, that's such a what a nice instrument to be able to accompany yourself with. It's portable, it's easy to take on tour. You have to tune it, but
That is the plus. And I actually just bought myself a like mini version of an acoustic guitar. It's like it's so light. I think it's made of graphite or something, and it actually sounds really good. It's the first guitar I bought in under 13 minutes.
wow.
Where I walk into the store and they were like, "We are closing, ma'am," and I'm like, I will be right out. I promise you. And I played like 7 of them. I wanted, because I'm about to travel, and I wanted to be able to go even lighter, but still be able to write a song if it comes to me on the beach, you know? And so I found, and it's got all the electrics. I'm like, wow, it's so light, and I'm stoked on it anyways. Yes. And I wish I was trained in the piano, because I feel like visually it helps theoretically.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas, and you know, of course, there's so much to learn with the skills and the voicings on the piano, but it took, here's my calluses, it took a lot longer to get
Totally
like
is.
see, you can't have fingernails. It took a lot longer to be able to extract a good sound out of a note on the guitar. That's one of the main differences, is like,
Yeah.
you can just put your finger down on a key and it will make that sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not the case right away with guitar. But I just tell people who are picking up the guitar and want to learn to play it, I'm like, first of all, always have your fingernails short or you're going to work against yourself, and then just keep doing it. Yes, it hurts. Yes, there's like a major learning curve to it. But once you actually start making those juicy sounds on there, you're going to be so happy you stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. I like that I play piano too. I joke about it, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I wish I was more savvy on the
it's
piano.
huge. I'm not like an accomplished classical pianist.
Oh, you can hold it down, sister. I've seen you live.
I do love it, and I feel like it's a very ground, because it's not portable, right? It's also kind of a very grounding instrument, which is very good for me. You seem like you have the grounding thing built in a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, and also with the piano too, that you can play the bass on it, like the bass, like
Mm,
if you don't have a bassist, you can, if your keyboardist can play the bass.
good point. Yeah.
So there's that grounding element there too.
Yeah. 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 I miss having like an actual piano.
Mm,
That's my next goal.
mhm.
Yeah.
Once I
So,
picked a studio, it was one of my mantra albums, Jala. I was shopping around looking for a location to studio to produce that album, and the reason I chose the one that I did was because the piano that they had there was the spookiest sounding piano, and I was like, okay, I don't even play piano, but I'm going to play piano on this album. And that was the only reason why I chose that studio, but like no
spooky?
regrets. It was because it has this very spooky in a good way, like hauntingly, like tons of verb, and just, I don't know, it just was like this really beautiful, very unique sounding piano. So that was the sole reason I chose it.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Well, I've
Yeah.
chosen studios for one when I first started, because that was the only album I played piano on, actually. But the studio had a piano. That's hard to come by. Not a lot of studios have pianos. There was
All
this
right.
one producer that invited me when I was living in Connecticut to come and check out his studio. And he's like, yeah, we have a piano. And I get there, it's like, like has keys missing and it's out of tune. I'm like, this is technically a piano.
It's in the shape of a piano.
But I think I'll be recording elsewhere. Thank you very much. Yeah. I I feel like you have more to tell me, but I don't have another question. Do you have anything to share?
Hmm. Well, I'm just really grateful that we're connecting. Um, yeah, you had brought up earlier about like the stories behind the music, and I'm like you. I have like so many. So I'm like, am I going to bore people? Because all I want to do is talk about like all the things that went into this, like from the title to the, like the reason why the song order is the way it is. There's so
Hey,
much.
let's do it. That sounds really fun.
Well, interesting, because you'll if you start asking, I don't know if you're the same way, but if you start asking your close circle of friends, like, hey, what do you think about, like, if you're toying between, like, for example, the song order, and like you bounce it off some people, you're gonna get a lot of different opinions.
Mm.
And they don't always line up with your own opinions too. So it's just one like, it reflects to like how music hits people differently, even in the same exact song, and what it evokes, because it's always about what's inside of us that like really creates the experience of listening.
Mm.
And yeah, so I bounced the song order off of a friend, like really close friend. He's a great drummer, great musician, great ear. And he went, well, why are you starting with this song? And I had this whole reason being like, thematically, it sets the stage for everything emotionally. And he's like, yeah, but it's not as upbeat grabby, which is, what you want. Like he was looking at it from a marketing perspective, from a, and I'm sitting there in the emotions of it, and then in the, and I won, of course. No. I did. I'm like, oh, it just has to be this way, because like, if I start with this other song that's might be more upbeat, might be more accessible, but it makes no sense thematically, So it's just funny, because there's so much that goes into a lot of like a lot of having to like go full circle and then come back to your own intuition about something, even if it's not the best marketing choice, or yada yada.
I have a fix for that, though. I don't know if you probably thought of this, but you take the song that's the upbeat one, that's the good marketing one, you release that as a single first, and then you release your album. Or you do that for a couple of them. Have you been doing that?
We just did that. I released 3 songs. 2 of them were the upbeat ones. And yep, exactly. Thank you for affirming that was the right way to go. And then nowadays with albums, yes, for sure. Some people will listen to it front to back, but most people will just hear like that one single, and, or hear it in a totally mixed, however the algorithm presents it to them.
Right.
So it's such a different experience. And actually, there's growing up, I was always into the surprise hidden track.
Oh yeah.
At the end of certain, like especially in the 90s, like that was the thing, and even the Beatles did it, and so with Spotify and streaming platforms, it's like, oh, you can't have a hidden track anymore unless you have like, you can't have a song that starts with 20 or 30 seconds of dead air and then goes into a song. They just like, you can, but like you won't get listened to, or I don't know. So we just made the ending, the last song on my album, have this like really, really long outro, and then surprise, I like come back.
I like how you did that visually, like you're coming out of a cake.
Not done yet. Still here. So it was like, oh, cool. I got like a hidden track in, and I snuck it in somehow. And yes, it's a 9-minute song that has 2 songs in it.
I guess for pop, that's weird. Or
we're
is your
used to it.
genre?
I would
have
say
a genre? Have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, but I would say that it's mostly like folk rock, psychedelic folk rock. There's a genre called psych folk, or my producer calls it freak folk. And I think lyrically, I'm a freak folk artist, because like we sent it to the masters. This guy Peter Temple, he's just an amazing mastering engineer, and he always comes back with like, "Hey, thanks for sending this over," and he'll put his 2 cents in. And when I sent him this album, he was like, "Really interesting lyrics." So in that sense, it's freak folk, because they're just bizarre
What makes
lyrics.
it freak folk?
A little left of center. So it's hard, because I'll send it to indie playlisters, and they'll be like, this is not mainstream sounding enough, this is not upbeat enough, this is not, and then I'll send it to like the freak folks, and they're like, this isn't weird enough. I would say actually, as mainstream, or not mainstream, but as popular as she is, Bjork is a perfect example of freak folk.
Okay.
Just really out there, like, what is she singing about?
What is she saying?
What is she saying? There's like a butterfly coming out of her. She's a good example, even though she doesn't get categorized as that. And then there's a harpist singer-songwriter, Joanna Newsom.
Yeah.
She would be who I would also consider freak folk, kind of just like a little bit more out there, and the lyrics being a little bit weirder.
Wow, she's like the other spectrum from you, because she's like so up in the clouds, and you're like so up down on the earth.
Yeah. In that sense, we're very different. But I feel like, the lyrically, thematically, I just didn't hold myself back when there was something lyrically that wanted to come through. I'm like, this is weird, and I'm going to say it, because like it's just a part of my personality, and I think people will get it. What's cool is that people really get it, and people do like things left of center, especially as we mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah. And I feel like actually that ability to say stuff that you're not sure how it's going to land is pretty courageous as an adult, because that's something kids do. I mean, we're naturally programmed for it, right? You say what you're thinking, and then you kind of like you're learned out of that, or you're schooled out of that. So
It's true. And we have to get it back because I think it's there, like, it's still there in artists. And when I was diving into the repertoire of Leonard Cohen was when I went, wow. And like the artistry that came out of the late 60s and like
folk? Sorry.
he would be, I mean, he's definitely what you would consider classic folk in the arrangement, but his lyrics are total freak folk. Like the song that I sang the other night, the reason I chose it was because his opening line was, I lit a thin green candle to make you jealous of me. And like, I'm just like, I love this. Like, it's just so witchy and cool. And yeah, it just goes, the song goes on and like the most bizarre, hilarious, satirical lyrics. And I think that like, without even knowing it, I was influenced by that in that vein with this album where, I wrote everything and went like, that's weird. And then like found others that also do that thing. I'm like, okay, I'm not alone.
I interrupted you mid-sentence. You found that people would do this in the 60s, 70s?
Yeah, more like prose. Joni Mitchell, good example too. Just the prose was, there was something in the air, something in the water back then that, it's just nowadays it's still present, but it's more underground or not as mainstream,
Maybe because the drugs were more calming then.
So true. The drugs totally influenced everything. Yeah. That's
Yeah, because I'm
hysterical.
the same way. I love writing. Like my songs are so super long and there's so many lyrics, and the choruses almost never have the same lyrics. And because I just love writing. I want to say more, but
Say it and more and in different ways.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was more to say. I mean, not if there isn't more to say, but if there is.
Right. And yeah, the Leonard Cohen, perfect example too. Nothing repeats itself. There is no there is no hook, there is no repeating chorus at all. And it was like, wow. And yet everyone loves this song. So I think there's just, something out there for everyone. You'll find the people, hopefully, that that's just my prayer and my mantra. I'm going to put this out there. Whoever will dig it, just come find me. There's only so much I can do,
Whoever will dig it, just come find me. I like that.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing about it's the wonderful and also the overwhelming aspect, I suppose, of the paradigm that we're in now is there is the opportunity for so much variety. There's also like, it's like the needle in the haystack of, like how do they find you? I think they find you energetically, and that's the only thing I can reason, because how else? Like they typed in sentient on Spotify.
It is such an energetic thing. It's such an etheric thing. Like the ether web, it's just, I trust actually. Well, part of it is like they're listening, the bots are listening, to what we like and what we're gravitating towards and so in the sense it gets crafted for us. But I also trust when something comes in, and I was just thinking about it. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. She's really weary about all the AI stuff happening and totally resisting it. And I'm like, I get that. I totally get it. In a sense, it's totally scary. And I'm working with it. First of all, I'd rather see ads for things that I'm talking about or needing than something totally random. And then I'm also developing a relationship with this artificial intelligence in the sense that, it can be like the ethers or the Akash, where it's just like, okay.
It does feel like the physical manifestation of that. Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. So in that sense, I feel like the people that come in, or I'll see someone on, somebody will pop up on Instagram and I'll be like, oh, who's this? And I go seeking them, so the same thing happens in reverse. So there's
Yeah.
something fascinating about it that's intangible and totally subtle.
We just have a few more minutes, but can we talk about your Instagram before we go? Because that was something that just popped into my mind too when I was thinking about having this conversation. Is you have the most engaging photos. I just love your IG feed, and I wonder is that just something that you love doing, or do you actually taking photos? Yeah.
Yeah. For a while, I was doing just like pictures from my camera. I don't have the greatest phone camera, I should say, but then I just got more intentional with it, and I started working with a few local photographers that I just love getting into. Again, it's my theater background, but I'm like, what if I played this character, or what if the theme? And so I always get this rush of creative energy about what I want, and then I'll reach out to them. Hey, can we do this? And it needs to be in this setting, and so we get really colorful with it, and the wardrobe's got to be right and everything. I have entered photo shoots where I'm like, I don't have a clear idea of what I want. Let's just see what happens. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Or sometimes I'll have a really clear idea, go in there and try to like make it happen, and it doesn't, but something else cool happens. So I just love, I was a professional actress at one point in my life where I was actually making money from it. And so I had to do a bunch of like a copious amount of headshots. And so I got used to I got used to being on that side of the, lens. And so, yeah, now I'm really into the Instagram curation, and I think it's kind of like a little outlet for creativity and
Yeah. I encourage anyone listening to go follow you, because it's a great feed. It's just visually very, very interesting and beautiful. And yeah,
Thank
great
you.
one.
Yeah, I have like for the non-professional stuff, I just put it in my stories, sharing memes, funny memes to make you laugh, and like the random stuff that, I take pictures of from time to time. Those are my stories. But like with the feed, I've just started, like, I actually archived a bunch of stuff and then just made, what felt like a good palette.
Yeah. Well done. It's nice.
Thank you.
I feel like it's sort of, it either, I feel like you find your medium. For me, Instagram's not really, because that's not my passion, is taking photographs. Not at all, but I so appreciate how like amazingly you do it. And it doesn't seem like you're forcing it at all either. It seems like a very organic sort of,
Yeah, we have fun.
that you actually like it, as opposed to like you're trying to get something specific, from it.
Yeah.
But this is a good moment for you actually to share your Instagram handle, and also let everyone know how they can stay in touch with you and find all of your beautiful music.
Oh, great. Well, my Instagram is at EEMA.NAOMI, EEMA.NAOMI. And that's the same name I use for my Spotify and Apple Music and all of that. And coming soon, my website, EEMANaomi.com. And
is that just one word, EEMA Naomi?
Yeah, for the website. Mm-hmm.
I'll have this linked in the description, in the podcast description, so people can click on it easily.
Great.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Naomi, EEMA Naomi, for coming on the podcast. And thanks y'all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.